Hey, have you played Superhot? It's a first-person shooter slash puzzle game where time only advances when you move, and you need to kill enemies while dodging bullets, carefully aiming shots, and using any and all weapons at your disposal. It's difficult to be truly innovative with a first-person shooter because, as critics of FPSs love pointing out, many of them feel exactly the same. Many do feature interesting and unique mechanics that play off the expectations of the genre, but the basic gameplay is rarely ever unchanged. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it makes games that switch up those aspects stand out all the more, and Superhot is one of those games. It's obviously different in aesthetics, with blocky characters highlighted in red and items colored in blue placed on plain white backdrops. It reduces the graphics to their simplest elements, performing their function as representing the objects on screen and not going any further, but where the game really differentiates itself is the game design. Calling Superhot a traditional shooter is underselling it heavily, and I'm not saying that just because of the time gimmick. More than any other shooter I've played, the game emphasizes strategy and critical thinking over brute strength and reaction time. Not to say that other FPSs don't have strategic elements, but rather than figuring out your plan of attack in real time, Superhot allows you to survey your environments carefully whilst in the middle of combat. The game consists of a series of short levels placing you in a variety of scenarios that test you in unique ways. Your basic objective is always the same: destroy every enemy in the room before they destroy you, but what weapons are available and what methods the enemies use to attack are different in each level. In essence, the levels are puzzles for the player to solve rather than merely a test of endurance and dexterity. But Superhot doesn't completely ignore its FPS roots and still provides a level of challenge comparable to that of other difficult shooters. You die with only one hit, so while taking things slowly and examining your surroundings is important, you also need to be mindful of what enemies are doing and where you are in relation to everything. You don't have an infinite amount of time, because time doesn't freeze completely when you stand still, and eventually you do have to move, but it means the challenge comes not from overcoming all your enemies, but rather from determining the optimal route and executing properly. While Superhot isn't any more or less difficult than a traditional shooter, as I already mentioned, it tests you in different ways, resulting in an experience that's wholly unique within its genres. It's unique as a shooter because it twists many of its conventions in gameplay and level design, and it's unique as a puzzle game because it places emphasis on not just solving the puzzle, but also physical execution. And the cherry on top is the story, which, without spoiling anything, is not only strange and terrifying, but also gets very meta in all the right ways. It carries thematic weight through semi-abstract storytelling, eliciting themes like violence in media, brainwashing, and video game addiction, told through a chilling yet simplistically communicated narrative. All these elements form one of the most original shooters I've ever played, and one that's left a lasting impact on me that won't go away anytime soon. It may not be what you're looking for in either a shooter or a puzzle game, but if you're willing to give it a try, you'll find something truly remarkable. I haven't tried Superhot in VR though, so please don't judge that version on this video, because I imagine playing this in VR adds a whole separate layer to the experience. And if you're curious what I think about Mind Control Delete, the standalone expansion released a few weeks ago, well, I actually think you should avoid this one unless you're a huge fan of the base game. Mind Control Delete features procedurally generated levels, which is an interesting idea, but it just doesn't work in the way the developers did it. While the levels are different each time in terms of player, enemy, and item placement, you're still playing in the same handful of rooms over and over again with no changes in the geometry or layout. And while the hacks that grant you new abilities are cool, they don't solve the fundamental problem of Mind Control Delete's repetitiveness. Still, the original is one of the freshest first-person shooters on the market, and if you allow yourself to become engrossed in the mechanics and the story, the game will leave you fully satisfied, and maybe a bit confused.